Welcome back to my channel. My name is LaShawn and this is Lush Uncut. So a couple of weeks ago, I recorded a YouTube video that I obviously did not post. And in that video, I was basically saying how I'm over politics, how I'm tired of the back and forth, how all the noise has just gotten too much. And I have no interest anymore of getting bothered by Democrats and Republicans refusing to be able to get it together and just constantly yelling over one another about the same things over and over again. I had basically decided that I wanted to tap out of the fight and focus on other things that more related to things that were going on in my personal life and just try to use that as my guide to do content. However, I realized lately that the battle for sanity and reason and logic in this country is not over, and it is in fact far from over. And this could not be more evident than what has occurred in New York City's mayoral primary race. Take a look.
Breaking overnight, a major upset in New York City's Democratic primary for mayor. 33-year-old state assemblyman Zohran Mamdami is now poised to win after former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who was considered the frontrunner in the race, conceded.
I will fight for a city that works for you, that is affordable for you, that is safe for you. I will work to be a mayor you will be proud to call your own.
Now, at first, when I saw the results of the primary race, I was met with frustration. As a former New Yorker, that city means a lot to me. The well-being of that city means a lot to me. There are people that I love and cherish dearly that still live in New York City and are constantly complaining about the cost of living and all of the other cities' seemingly never-ending problems. So I was met with complete frustration because in my mind, I'm like, how is it that you guys are going to elect someone that is basically promising to make your life much harder than it is right now? And then there was confusion because a lot of the people that were complaining about these problems seem to be rejoicing at the fact that they are about to get a lot worse. Now, after the frustration and the confusion that was sprinkled with a little bit of, justified anger, I started looking into the numbers behind the election and exactly what led up to Mamdami being elected, who he is and what he stands for and what that means. Well, what this election means, not just for the Democratic Party, but for the country at large in terms of where we are headed politically and socially. Now, when you look at the numbers, they are, and this is from Grok. I asked Grok some questions. So all of the information that I'm about to throw at you came from Grok. So if I got anything wrong, blame Grok, not me. So they are 3.5 million registered Democrat voters in New York City. Out of that 3.5 million, only about 1.1 million people voted in the primary election, which means only about a third of eligible Democrat voters participated in this election, which is not abnormal. New York elections tend to have very low voter turnout. And on top of that, this is the Democratic primary election, which means that it's more likely that people who are highly engaged in politics or who are highly motivated to vote are going to turn out to vote. It's usually very hard to get normal, everyday working class people to participate in a primary election, which kind of leads into my third piece of information here, which is the types of people that did vote in this election. An Emerson College poll that was conducted in May of this year, I think it's between May 23rd to May 26th, found that among likely Democrat primary voters, Mamdami led with college educated voters with 58% support, which was compared to Cuomo's at 42% support. So what it looks like here is that a lot of college educated people, Democrats, came out and voted for Mamdami, which, basically resulted in him winning the primary, which if you know the demographic makeup of New York City, you know that the people that are in the lower to middle class usually do not have the time, energy, or mental or social capacity to vote in a primary election, which unfortunately leaves a lot of room for these educated liberal elites to make decisions for the general populace, which does not take away from the responsibility of the general populace to be able to vote in their best interest. But it is an unfortunate situation where you're living in a city like New York that is very tough to be able to survive in, and it kind of just boggles you down to the point where you don't even have the, the privilege of having the mental capacity to go out and vote for your elective representatives. And again, I'm not taking away the responsibility of people to go out to vote, but I really think that it speaks to the type of people that have the privilege in some way, shape, or form to go out and vote, and then vote for someone that is going to make the lives of the general populace a lot harder. Now, just so you can get some additional information on who this man is, let's take a look at his acceptance speech and what he had to say after realizing that he won the Democratic primary in New York. Let's take a look.
In the words of Nelson Mandela, it always seems impossible until it is done. We have won because New Yorkers have stood up for a city they can afford. A city where they can do more than just struggle. One where those who toil in the night can enjoy the fruits of their labor in the day. Where hard work is repaid with a stable life. Where 8 hours on the factory floor or behind the wheel of a cab is enough to pay the mortgage. It is enough to keep the lights on. It is enough to send your kid to school. Where rent-stabilized apartments are actually stabilized. Where buses are fast and free. Where childcare doesn't cost more than CUNY. And where public safety keeps us truly safe. And it's where the mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism. To stop mass ICE agents from deporting our neighbors.
This is what I call the Trump is president effect, which means when Donald Trump is in office, people that vehemently oppose him in every direction, no matter what he does, are more motivated to show up politically because they feel like they have something or someone to fight against, especially considering what has been going on with the ICE raids and all of the attention that has garnered in terms of Trump and his immigration policies. And in addition to that, the Democrats seems like they're trying to find a footing. They're trying to find something to pin on Donald Trump that's going to motivate their base to vote. Oh God, that was a trial for me. But anyway, it seems as if they're going to stick to this immigration thing as long as they possibly can. And a lot of people have picked up on that. And I'm pretty sure, New York City being a sanctuary city, there are a lot of people that are pro illegal immigration, pro amnesty, pro letting whoever and their mother, come into this country whenever they want to come in with no restrictions and being able to supply them with unlimited social welfare. There's a couple of ramifications that this election is going to have politically, both for the Republicans and the Democratic Party. On the Democrat side, I feel like they're going to make the mistake of using this as a bellwether for how they should move forward in terms of the direction that they want the party to go in. There has been a strong backlash against the leftism, the trans music movement, the immigration policies of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the anti-American attitude that the Democrats have been swept up in for the last, 7 to 10 years or so. They have faced immense backlash against all of those things, and it's arguable to say that is what led President Trump to be back in office. So the Democrats are going to think, we can't moderate because we're going to lose a lot of our progressive base. We can either go to the left or shift a little bit to the right. Now, obviously, they're not going to go to the right, but I think this primary election of Mamdani is going to give them the green light to go even further to the left, because obviously this is what they think most people want, and they are severely mistaken. Because again, when you look at the people that were motivated to vote in this election, it is the liberal, college educated elites who hate Donald Trump, hate America, hate law and order, hate everything that makes this country what it is. They were the ones that elected this guy, you know, as the Democratic nominee in New York City. This is not an election of like Central Ohio or Montana or even like a Florida or a Georgia that tends to be more in the middle. This is deep blue New York City that elected this Democratic Socialist. This is not a reflection of the general attitude of Americans at large. But what I think Democrats are going to do is believe that it is. And I pray to God that they do, right? And I feel like in terms of like with Republicans, there's going to be some Republican political advisor that's going to be like, oh my God, we should be scared because obviously this guy was able to win this primary election. Mind you, he went against Cuomo. Like, honestly speaking, that really was not a hard fight. Cuomo has a lot of baggage behind him, and I really do think it was his baggage that kind of weighed him down in this election and ultimately led to him being defeated. But some very misinformed Republicans are going to say, you know what, we need to moderate. We need to slow down with the immigration stuff. We need to ease up on the trans stuff. We don't need to push any further to the right, which I think they are honestly and severely mistaken. I do feel like the left is going to stray away from the trans stuff because it is the third rail of politics at the moment. No one is interested in fighting the trans fight, and it will be a grave mistake for Republicans to say, you know what, after what the Supreme Court ruled the other day, this battle is won, we can pack up and go home, we got a victory, guys, let's just leave it there. No, they need to triple down on this and bring a bill to the House and to the Senate and make Democrats stand up for this on a federal level in front of the American public. They do not need to let this conversation end because it is a winning battle politically. Okay, and we need to let these Democrats own up to the BS that they have been pushing for the last 5 years in regards to this trans nonsense. It will be a very, very stupid mistake for them to let this go. And I don't think that they should try to moderate either. The only issue that I think has really been a hard struggle for Republicans has been abortion. And that conversation has not been, being had on a public stage since Trump was elected. At this point, everybody's like, you know what? It's up to the state. The Democrats might try, and they have been trying to bring this conversation back into the forefront of political discourse because they know it's a losing battle for Republicans. But most people simply just don't care about it. It's because most Americans are like, you know what? It's up to the state, and it's up to the state. That's the end of the day. I think what they do need to do is kind of go even more to the right because it's popular. When you look at, cultural trends online, even with the trad movement, even with the pro-America movement, even with the anti-illegal immigration movement, America in general are shifting to the right. And yes, it is risky. I got you, but you cannot continue to play it safe. So all in all, when it comes to this election, I think it's a net positive for Republicans. Because again, the left, the Democrats, they're going to say, you know what, we need to go even further to the left. And I truly and honestly believe from the bottom of my heart that most Americans are going to push past this. Now, what does this mean for New York City? What does this mean for New York City? It could be easy to just say, they get what they deserve. If the city goes up in flames, then they can't get mad because they voted for it or they didn't vote against it. But as a person that loves this country, all of this country, I do want our cities to be successful. I do want our cities to flourish. And New York City is one of the greatest countries on earth, okay? And I'm not saying that just because I'm a former New Yorker, it is just a fact. It is an incredible city. And we cannot give up on our cities. We can't just, say, you know what? They get what they deserve. That's the end of the day. And I hope that whoever the other candidate is, I think he's going to be going against Eric Adams. And I think Curtis Seelwald, who really needs to stop running at this point. Like, the man is like 71 years old. I think this is like his third run for political office in New York. We need new faces. Anyways, that's another story for another day. But it can be said, though, that New Yorkers are obviously not suffering enough. And at some point, you can bring a horse or a deer to the water, but you can't make them drink. People have been talking about how expensive New York is, how dangerous it is, how the city needs law and order, how, being a sanctuary city, despite the fact that it's a city of immigrants, is not exactly the best thing for the city. People have been talking to New Yorkers and screaming to the top of their lungs for them to choose differently and make the city great. However, the only people that can control the destiny of that city is the people that live there and the people that vote there. And at some point, I believe that the actual New Yorkers, the working class, the people that are driving that city, the backbone of that city, which is the lower, middle, and working class of that city, are going to one day wake up and say, you know what? It's about time we stop letting these college-educated idiots vote against our best interests. That is my hope and that is my prayer. I really hope that this man loses in a general election, but if he happens to win, which is the most likely probability, that will be unfortunate, but it is what it is at the end of the day. So that's all I have to say about that. I really didn't want to keep talking about politics because it's just exhausting, but I saw this and I was just like, bruh, I can't just sit back and just let this country that I love so dearly just go up in flames without even speaking up against it. So hopefully this means that I'm back on YouTube for a little while. This video was actually quite easier to make than I thought it was going to be. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell so that when I upload again, whenever that is, you will be notified. I thank you so much for your time and your attention. Remember to be blessed and be a blessing. Thank you.